Welcome back to Versus, the show that pits bodybuilder versus bodybuilder. And today's challenge is William Bonac versus Dexter Jackson. Now, to give you guys a little history on the battle between these two guys, going back a number of years, I think it was 2014, William Bonac actually got in Dexter Jackson's face at the Prague show and said, "I'm going to beat you. I got a better physique than you." And Dexter kind of foo-fooed him off at the time and said, "Hey, I'm Mr. Olympia, man, you're talking to. You're never going to win the Olympia." Flash forward now 4 years and 3 years, and at 2017 Mr. Olympia competition, Bonac shocked the world, almost placed second behind Phil Heath, probably should have. Finished in the third position. Dexter Jackson was fourth right behind him. So it was the first time you really, put Dexter in his rearview mirror in a sense. This year's Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio, a couple weeks ago, was a rematch of sorts, Dexter versus Bonac, and of course, we all know what happened there. Bonac winning the Arnold Classic, narrowly defeating Dexter Jackson. Well, this coming week, we're going to see a rematch between Dexter and Bonac at the Arnold Australia. And I think a lot of people are excited to see what's going to happen because I'm sure Dexter's pissed off. I'm sure Dexter wants to come back better. And to be honest with you, Dexter's physique looked better than I'd ever seen it in a long time at the Arnold USA. The problem was he was suffering a little bit of abdominal distension. And that was really throwing off the symmetry of his physique. And I think that probably hurt him in the final tally. And whether that cost him the show or not, it's impossible to know, because I think every judge has a different opinion. But we do know one thing, that it was a very close competition. So we're going to do a little virtual pose down using the pictures from 2 weeks ago at the Arnold Classic. And I'm going to give you my analysis, not that it means a whole lot, but I'm going to give you my analysis of what is good about each of their physiques, what's vulnerable about both of their physiques, and who I think is going to win this rematch come Saturday. Let's look at the front double bicep. We're not going to go through every pose. We're going to go through a couple of them, the key poses. The front double bicep is probably the pose that is the most important pose on that stage. Even though it's maybe not the most glamorous, it's the pose we first see up there. It's the pose that shows detail. It's the pose that really, sets apart the competitors from each other. And I think that a lot of times the judges make 90% of their decision based on this front double bicep pose. So let's take a look. If you look at Bonac on the left there, you see his body positioning is terrific on this shot. He's got great arms, obviously. He's got the flaring lats. He doesn't have a long torso, but he's got a very good taper for a guy who's short. He's got good leg development. He's got good separation in his legs, and he's got great calves. So he really doesn't have there's no weaknesses on this pose aside from his stature. Obviously I'd love to see William a couple inches taller, but he's not. But I don't see, there's really no, you really can't criticize too much here, other than to say he's just not tall enough. But Dexter is not that much taller than Bonac. And when you look at Dexter's physique, once again, genetically blessed arms. Dexter's got a tremendous set of arms, chest, shoulders. His waistline, over the years, he's been criticized a little bit. He has thick obliques. He's got a small waist and he's got a great taper and he's got the good lat flare, but he's got a weird, shape to his external obliques, and even the rectus abdominis in the middle sometimes don't line up that well. And once again, 2 weeks ago he was suffering a little bit from some distension on stage, so that probably wasn't helping this pose. Usually this pose is a very dangerous pose for Dexter. His front quads are good, they have good separation, and he has good legs. He doesn't have tremendous legs, and I think if anything, if there was any weakness in his physique, it would be that his legs are just not huge, but they're well balanced and they match his upper body. Let's go to the next pose that I want to look at, which is the side chest pose, because the side chest pose showcases the body obviously on the side view. You get to see that side leg. You get to see how much thickness that upper body has, and how you display the side chest is really important. This has been Dexter Jackson's bread and butter pose for his entire career. Very few people out there, take out Dexter on this pose, and I think the same goes true for, Dexter versus Bonac. If you look at Dexter on the right here, you see the shoulders, the chest, the abdominal, wall, the side leg. You see all of Dexter's strengths here showing, because he's got the tremendous arms and shoulders and pecs. Bonac on the left, obviously, I like his side leg a little better than Dexter's, although I don't know if I like the way he's positioning it. But because he's short and his arms are a little short, it's hard to really pull the chest around enough. And so sometimes when he hits this shot, you see too much of his front. It almost looks like a front pose for him. But once again, Bonac's got the ridiculous arms and shoulders as well. His pecs can be a little thicker, but like I said, I think it has to do more so than with the way he's standing on this pose. And it has a lot to do with the length of his arms. Dexter, for a shorter guy, has long arm length, which kind of gives his body a little better flow. I give Dexter the side chest, even though Bonac's got some freaky body parts and maybe some better conditioning on this shot. I do like Dexter in the side chest, and I think, once again, this is another pose that the judges really love to critique, especially when things get close. Now we go to the back. They say shows are won or lost from behind, and I think that at this level, because the guys are so good, a lot of times the backs can separate the winners from the second place guys. When you see the back double bicep of William Bonac, the first thing that you see is those crazy glutes and hamstrings, which he definitely has better than Dexter. Dexter has great glutes, but his hamstrings are thick, but they're not Bonac dense. Also, Bonac's got the better calves, but when you go to the upper body, Dexter's got those arms. This is not really a great perspective shot of Dexter. I've seen some better back double bis on him. I just don't like the camera angle on this one. But Dexter, this is usually also Dexter's bread and butter shot. That back double bicep is lethal for him. I think Bonac matches up really well with Dexter. He's got those lats that attach really, really low on his body. Probably more likely because of the fact that his torso is so short. It looks like the lats almost attach at his waistline. He's got also the great arms from behind and shoulders. They do have very similar, physiques. They match up really well on stage, and that's why I think it was so tight. Dexter's got more of those grainy looking glutes. Bonac's got a little bit more muscle thickness back there, but the lines are not quite as deep. This you can call this pose a tie, really. This is a very, very close pose. Let's go to the rear lat spread, because the rear lat spread is a little bit more differentiation between the two of these guys because of their structure. I always like to judge the back from a width perspective and a density perspective and depth. I think they both, depth-wise and density, and thickness-wise, have a very similar back. But when we go to the rear lat spread, you see that Bonac has a little more width, whereas Dexter has a little bit more detail. So once again, this is a personal preference pose. Who do you like better? If you like conditioning and detail, you go with Dexter in the shot. If you like just sheer muscle thickness in that back, you go with Bonac. That's where I think this is kind of like, what do the judges like? What is their preference here? Dexter has dominated back poses throughout the course of his bodybuilding career for many, many years. And I think it's going to come down to whoever is going to be in the best shape come Saturday in Australia. Let's go to the front. Let's look at these most muscular poses, because the muscle shots are the last thing the judges see, and that's where they kind of make their final decision. So if it is close, which it seems like since we've gone through these poses that it is very close, the most muscular poses might actually decide who wins this show. Both of them have deadly, deadly most musculars. Dexter's crab shot is, notorious. I mean, the traps, the pecs, the delts, the arms. He knows how to hit this shot. This shot is, wins him a lot of shows. But Bonac's got a tremendous amount of thickness because Bonac's arms are ridiculous. His chest looks really good in this pose. He's got the delts. His traps are not quite the Dexter Jackson traps, but he's got the good leg shots. This is a hard pose to call. I like Dexter in this pose, but Bonac, has a lot of gifts. Now, if you go to the hands together most muscular, which is a little bit different than the crab most muscular, you'll see that, once again, you see Dexter's width, you see Bonac's width, you see Bonac's front quad development. It's a little better than Dexter here. These guys are so close that here's my prediction for Saturday. Because when you have physiques that look a lot like each other and have a lot of the same type of muscle with the same type of density, it comes down to usually conditioning. And I always say this, conditioning wins shows. I believe that the winner this Saturday, if it comes down to a Dexter versus Bonac battle, which it seems like it probably will come down to who's in the better shape. Now, the question is, we know Dexter can hold his conditioning. Dexter travels very well. He's got that kind of physique that doesn't hold a lot of water. He sometimes gets better from show to show. Bonac, on the other hand, I don't know what his fluid issues are when he gets on an airplane. People don't realize, a lot of guys out there who are watching this haven't flown from the United States to Australia. It's a 24-hour flight, okay? A lot goes wrong. I always told people, when I fly, I get shredded. I get dehydrated. But that's when I fly for 2 to 4 hours. When I fly for 24 hours, I hold all kinds of weird water in my ankles and stuff like that. Why? Because you're up in a much lower barometric pressure, okay? You're in a pressurized cabin that's trying to equal what it is on the ground. Things just don't work the same. And it usually takes up to 48 hours to really get your body to look the way it should. Now, sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes it's not, because sometimes when you lose that water from the plane, you get too dehydrated and get flat. And when Bonac or Dexter's flat, that doesn't really help their physique a lot. So I wouldn't, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I wouldn't put my money on either one of them. I would have to say that it's going to be pure luck. I think Dexter's looking to win this show to get back at Bonac for the victory he got at the Arnold USA. But I think the judges are going to be looking at Bonac to repeat here. They like to see those back-to-back victories. Very rarely do you see someone win in the United States and then go to Australia and not win. Although it's happened in the figure division, we don't usually see it in bodybuilding. It'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend. On my final decision, I guess I got to say Bonac versus Dexter. I have to go with Bonac now. I think that Bonac has established himself as a more dominant bodybuilder in the year 2018. That's not to say that Dexter can't knock him off, because Dexter can knock anyone off. Dexter can knock Phil Heath off if Phil's off a little bit. So it's going to all, I think that the Bonac's destiny really lies in his own hands this Saturday. If he comes in at his best, full and ripped, I say he wins. If he's a little off and Dexter's right there, expect and don't be surprised to see a Dexter Jackson upset. For now, I'm Dave Palumbo with another exciting episode down the tubes of Versus. If you guys have suggestions what you'd like to see in the future, bodybuilder versus bodybuilder, figure versus figure, bikini versus bikini, you let me know and we'll get it on the show. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. For now, though, it's time to go. We'll see you next week.